Awesome. Hi. Welcome, everyone. Just while everyone's joining, we'll just kind of gently start. We're together this time in London, in Space to Be You in Hackney. And we've just been kind of going through ideas about these free webinars and ideas of what we could do next time. Thinking about other topics that might interest people in the TRE community especially. So if you guys have any ideas as well, you're very welcome to either let us know, put them in the chat, we'll write them down for next time and we can plan around them.
So like emotions.
Emotions.
What else?
We're talking about
how to work with them.
How to work with emotions as one idea of a webinar.
What else? Contraindications.
Oh yeah, contraindications.
Because there were a number of questions about, for example, epilepsy or fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue or different. So I think it's good space for exploration. I can share some of my insights, but also everyone is invited to contribute, and certainly we have experts in different fields who can enrich this space.
And so today we're going to be focused on body reading, and we will, this is a space obviously for you all to also ask questions and get involved. We really want to hear from you guys as well. What you're thinking about, what your reflections are when you receive some of this information. What's also maybe happening for you in your practices and your own personal process as well. Okay. So
I just want to apologize in case someone came for 5 a.m. hour earlier.
PM.
Oh, PM, sorry. Yeah. Because I initially scheduled the call for London time, but on my computer there is a default for the Central European time, and apparently it kind of switched on its own, and I did not double check. So I really apologize because some people could not make that. But anyway, won't happen again.
All right. So just to introduce ourselves briefly again, if you weren't here last time, my name is Chandani Amin. I'm a TRE provider. I'm also a reflexologist and Reiki practitioner based in London, and I've worked with Cheda through various courses of his since becoming a TRE provider, and they've really, really helped me to just expand my understanding of TRE, the capacity of this practice, the depth of the practice, of kind of involuntary movement in general. And so I was, we've been talking, and I said, well, why don't we kind of get people together and have a space just to explore some of these different topics and, some of the, back alleys of where TRE can take you. And so, that's what we're doing. And it's really nice to see so many of you joining and interested in these topics. So really, really thank you for being here as well. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, Cheda. I'm a TRE trainer. I can say senior trainer. I'm a naturopath as well, craniosacral therapist, and I've been combining my 55 years of life experience and interweaving into my therapy and my life and what I'm sharing with you. So I'm not very rigid in my approach. There are boundaries, but I have specific view on what boundaries are. and I always go back to biology. I think biological systems are the most tried and tested systems on our planet, and I wish political systems can mirror that a little bit, and then we will have a very not competitive but collaborative world in the universe. And so my whole approach also is about biology and anatomy and how you are in your own space, in your own universe, and sharing the universe with others. And if you stick with biological laws, and some of them are not so obvious, not fully understood yet, but I find myself being in a safe ground there. And us working in a trauma field, definitely that gives you even greater safety and clarity sometimes. So thank you, Chandani, for your initiative and also participation, and to all of you. And this is fairly nonchalant, relaxed conversation, and I'm hoping to stimulate you. This year, in particular, I feel very I'm back in form after many years of kind of a dip in my personal circumstances and work circumstances, but there is a deeper sense of meaning again permeating through me, and I'm really pleased with that. It's just my original. It's a good quality of me, my enthusiasm. Since I was a child, I was an enthusiastic child, maybe overly enthusiastic. So. But I like that about me. The older I'm more accepting and happy of who I am. I can't be anyone else, really. Everyone else is taken. That's all that's left. It's to be who we are. So anyway, that's me.
Okay, so let's talk about body reading. I had the real pleasure of. Was it the first cohort of the body reading thing that we did last year?
Yeah.
So
you and Alice kind of asked me, why don't we do that? And I was like, yeah.
Me and friend and colleague Alice Payton, who's also a TRE provider in Spain, we were trying to get Cheda on board to do this course in body reading, because it was something that we felt was kind of missing a little bit from the TRE training. And so, we really wanted to learn more about, how do you see the things you see? How do we understand what the body is telling us just from observing it, from looking at it? So, it would be great to just have a little introduction. What is body reading in your own words?
So, body reading is your ability to perceive non-verbal cues and bodies of another human being, of your own and another human being, when you're in communication with or contact with. And I was asked this years ago, people were saying, how do you see that? That's kind of amazing, I really don't see what you see. And then, I would say, because I'm so magical, I'm so amazing, I see these different realms and dimensions, and not really. It's a simple skill that you develop. That's what it is. Learning about the anatomy, trying, asking, being more neutral, trying to understand, and then that kind of body of knowledge unifies at some point, and then you have a fairly good understanding of this. Of the organism or superorganism that is in front of you. Still, you understand small amount, but at least you have a great awareness about that, and greater respect as well. So that's what body reading to me is: acquired skill to understand and see non-verbal cues and the whole body expression, let's say, of this super organism in front of us.
Okay. And why is that important to the work we do, maybe as TRE providers, but maybe also other practitioners?
I think it's essential because you will be more effective in your approach or your communication and your understanding what's happening in front of you. If you know why someone's shoulder is higher, for example, or hip is rotating to one side, or face expression is, being in a particular way, or feet are positioned in a particular way. You observe the dominant part of someone, and then, the body itself, it's already communicating to you, this is who I am. So if you already can see that, then, your job and guidance of whatever practice you do, it will be more effective. Sorry, we're in London and,
there's a lot of police sirens keep going past us. Okay, so can you give an example or go in more in detail into an example, just rough, like?
Okay, so let's just back up a little bit. A few people in the past asked, particularly psychologists, psychotherapists, and cognitive therapists, how do you see this? Because I've been working for last 30 years. It's this year's anniversary of my really engagement with therapeutic work and body. And over years and decades, you learn and you make mistakes and you develop. But if you're developed in a cognitive aspect, of course you're going to have a greater skill than I would have probably, So I think it's important to merge and then develop all skills that can be beneficial to a client, and find your own talents and your own interests that will be more aligned with you, rather than forcing, I have to know this at all costs. I think it's good to develop different understandings, but just to say, for example, 30 years ago, even 20 years ago, when I started studying brain a little bit, I mean, that was like so scary, and I felt so incompetent, and I was incompetent. I didn't know anything about the brain. But I mentioned recently, last year, I started this course with this professor. It's just the most advanced functional neuroanatomy, and it's blowing my brain, and it's phenomenal, and I love it. And I'm going to bring that online for you, online in a way I think as a therapist we need to know. But it's taken me 10, 20 years to mature into being able to absorb some of that information. So I think also part of this conversation is for you not to feel incompetent. It's okay not to know. That's one of the greatest teachings that Baselli really shared with me and with us. It's okay not to know. You don't pretend you know something if you don't. You know enough, and I'm so happy to see your development as a therapist, as a woman. How you sit in your power more, and that's great because some of our work together helped you become more confident and understand more. But it's taking time.
Yeah, actually, one of the things you helped me with was being able to say, like, I don't know, in a very kind of confident way, because we don't need to know everything, and it's okay to kind of be like, oh, I'll figure that out for you, or I'll try and find that out for you later, because there is a kind of deeper groundedness and confidence in knowing what that you don't know everything, but you're curious to find out, if it's a good question, if it's engaging, if it's inspiring.
Yeah. And it's important because that also gives permission to your client not to know. So your client doesn't feel incompetent, stupid, or but it's okay not to know. It's okay to be confused, and still we are communicating as these intelligent organisms and developing the relationship. So this kind of softening into not knowing but still being present and capable, I think is such a gift. particularly for us who work with involuntary movements, which is such a enigmatic, amazing element of work, and that's why I'm keen to develop more and understand more, and I'm understanding, and that's why I want to share and as much as I can with this. And then part of the body reading is the concept that it's not so obvious, but your posture, your gestures, your certain habitual patterns are often invisible and not perceivable by yourself. So some of this work kind of brings you closer to you. You look at yourself in the mirror in a different way. You touch your body, you feel your body, you see your body in a different way. And then that transmits to your relationship with the client. And I think that's the really amazing value that, developing your own perception and then seeing that in others, and then that expansion and contraction, integration of that whole process of building knowledge, information, knowledge, and wisdom later on. And that's the point.
Yeah, because you once you start to gain some familiarity, let's say, with these asymmetries, dominances in the body, kind of postural misalignments, you start to see them. Also, you're more able to perceive them in others. It's more obvious to you, just from having this kind of, what would you call it, like a basic framework around. Because everybody has imbalances, right?
Yes, everybody.
And we don't necessarily. So, how does it help your work to see these imbalances? What do you do with the information that you read from someone's body?
So I can bring more awareness to client itself on particular imbalance that might be affecting their posture or their movement, or particular tremor mechanism is going to one part of the body, and client says, yeah, I have no idea why this is happening. And we do know the tremor mechanism always works towards resolution. Mm-hmm. It's not always linear, by the way. It's not always linear resolution. So, and then if you see some dominances, as you said, which is really important, we all have dominant parts of our body and psyche as well, and understanding that it really is such a great advantage, because you can point that to a client and work with less dominant parts and so on. So bringing a great awareness. And what I find that the greater awareness produces the transformation in itself to some extent. So if you understand, my feet are in this position, and I have some imbalance in my hips or my shoulders and my spine, and because all of that is connected, then your own posture changes already, because you become more aware as you stand, as you walk, as you whatever you do. And if you can empower your client with some of these insights, I think that's amazing work. That's on top whatever you do. If you do TRE, or if you do massage, or you do yoga, or whatever practice you do.
Yeah, I'm just reflecting on that, almost in TRE, for example, if someone has more awareness of where their body, may have some of these imbalances that they may want to work on, they may want to, encourage that tremor mechanism, just knowing from observation and their personal awareness, and as that grows, I guess that will be an invitation for the involuntary movement to go there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, if it hasn't done naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the more you revisit that, not in a way, oh, let me fix this.
Yeah.
But as you said, it's an invitation. Let's explore this. What's going on? Because in any imbalance, there would be different compensatory mechanisms. There could be anterior part, posterior, spiral, diagonal. We are multidimensional beings, really. It's not, I actually believe we are quantum systems. We are not linear systems here. And by, engaging with one part of the body doesn't always produce, exact the same effect in the other part of the body. So just allowing possibility that something unpredictable might take place. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great advantage of our work, and that's why I want all of us to really sit more in our power, in our conviction when you're working with clients that, they might express some of these emotions or different movements. This is freedom. This is majesty. It's a majestic thing that you allow probably for the first time just to be as you are. It's like amazing.
Just to let your body express itself. Yeah. Mm. Just to check in with you guys, if anyone has any questions, feel free to put your hand up, unmute yourself, put them in the chat. I can also read them out if you don't want to unmute yourself. So I wonder if it'd be a good time to go through some of the images, just explore that.
Sure. So just to say, when deciding what to do for today, which we decided a few weeks ago, because a lot of people ask about, body reading and so on. And so I'm going to be teaching in-person and online course on body reading. And that's going to be in May. So I just wanted to open that space for people to, and I'm going to share certain approaches, certain things that I use and so on, and they might be useful. So there is a question.
So I'd be interested in hearing how you work with people with conditions like long COVID or ME or chronic fatigue syndrome. Okay, nice. I guess that's an idea for a future one.
Yeah.
Do you have something to comment on that?
Obviously everyone would say just go easy and definitely because, COVID and some of these chronic infections will be present in the tissue, in endothelial cells and layers. So often people will feel really good afterwards, but then they might crash because some of their tissue holds a vast amount of toxins and non-digested debris from protein or viral or whatever. So often next day or day after they might just have a crash. So in order to avoid that, you really don't go strong through the exercises. You need to go, in a mild way, and also with TRE process itself, you need to not overdo it in a way. It's very difficult to say, you do for 1 minute, for 7 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. But regular checking in with the client, observing their temperature, observing the skin of their face, for example, and the hands will give it certain signs. If you're engaging deeper with the hypothalamus, with some of these limbic systems that in return can cause reaction and dumping extra toxicity from the system. Because we need to remember TRE is phenomenally good for lymphatics. Lymphatics organ that it's really not fully appreciated, but I'm myself as a naturopath, I really work a lot with lymphatics. So you need to be very careful with lymphatic overload and how you drain that. And TRE does really good drainage. And especially for ladies, you can have, in your premenstrual time or during the menstruation, maybe you're swollen, you're a little bit, feeling heavy and so on, and most of the time during and after TRE session there would be a great release and you will feel more like yourself, and that's due mainly to the lymphatic rebalancing and also hormonal. There would be a great connection between these two.
Okay.
I mean, it's a bigger question on this, but just briefly I would say make sure with chronic fatigue syndrome that often it's related to kidney processing oxalates, phosphates, and some other chemicals from the system. And you might have a great release initially, but it takes a long time to detoxify this out of tissues themselves. So different disciplines, multiple approaches will be beneficial. Nutrition, naturopathic, TRE, and the movements, and so on and so forth. So I hope that's useful, but that's briefly what I would say.
But it's a great question. I mean, maybe there's some space to talk about TRE in the lymphatic system, and then these corresponding conditions, or at some point.
Yeah, TRE detox. Yeah, we're definitely gonna go with TRE detox, TRE sexuality, and some of these elements definitely they're there in the pipeline. But okay.
Okay, another question come through. So, once you notice a specific tendency in someone's body, will you always make them aware of it, or is there value in keeping it to yourself and seeing how their body might work through it by itself? Yeah, great question.
Yeah, depends on the client, really. I always say it's not how much you do with the client. It depends how much resource the client is. The key here is the resource. So before going any deeper with the client, you make sure you resource the client. They have some foundation, because you might do some amazing things with the client, but if they're not resourced, they go home, that might ricochet. They might give more problems than value. Yeah. And sometimes people might come with an idea, of being really traumatized, and they want to release everything, and then anything you might bring attention to, they really will focus on that, and that often might be a counter indicative, and so depends on the context. I would bring awareness if client is resourced and able to contain and understand self-regulation, and we have a good co-regulation between us, then I can be gently curious. It's always about curiosity and playful. Oh, how about this? What do you feel there? How is that for you? What do you feel in the body? But always body-related context. If it's emotional or mental, or any processing that goes on, has to be related to the body. That gives a greater grounding.
Yeah, because probably in someone's initial sessions, they might not want to be told everything that's going on in there.
Definitely. But they won't come back though.
Someone commented, there's no always in TRE.
Exactly, Susan, yeah.
Yeah.
That's because anything can work for anyone at some time, but nothing can work all the time.
Yeah.
No matter what the therapy is, just be aware of that for yourself. You might have an amazing process with particular thing, and then it doesn't work any longer, because the complexity of the body. It's that it protects you. It is a great defense mechanism. So no injury or no trauma can permanently paralyze you. Equally, no single input or healing can have a long-term effect. So usually it's short-term effect. So certain structures change, biochemical responses change, hormonal responses change. but you have to repeat them in order, or engage in a different way in order to have a lasting effect.
And that's one of the questions I get a lot from clients, or especially in groups, is, okay, so do I shake everything out and then I'm done? And actually, to what you just said, once you develop the skill, you maintain that health, you maintain that vitality, right?
Okay, and go deep.
And go deep. I have a question for how did you personally in your work, or how did you develop this skill in body reading?
Because I'm so gifted and amazingly, able guy, I just know everything. It's been 30 years of work and many mistakes as well. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. This society judges us terribly on, you must make mistakes. Actually, you learn the most from mistakes. But if you work with the invite and you're not overly committed, overly confident, and underconfident as well, like so afraid to do things, engage as a human being and try to try something in a good spirit, respectfully, and often that will work. And if it doesn't, then you learn, and if you make error, you apologize. That takes. You don't need to blame someone else or client to be overly apologetic. You just say, okay, I tried that, didn't work. That's fine. Even the other day I had the client, and there was great expression and so on, and I offered contact, and I was convinced she needed the contact, but she said no, and then I was like, okay, fine. Later on she asked me for contact, but that initial thing was, and I could say, oh gosh, I'm such an expert, I've got all this experience, I know your body, because I felt her body's asking me for contact. But there are many layers that I might perceive, but there are the layers I don't perceive. Even clients themselves don't understand different responses or sensations or feelings within them. So just giving space that someone can say yes and they can say no, they say no, then yes, that's the nice, beautiful dance that we're offering, and not taking it personally or blaming or incompetent, because what can happen that equally you and the client both can be right, because this is not about right or wrong. You see, that's enough to be aware of that. That's really one of the great teachings I received many years ago, and I hold dear to my heart, because that's true. Because you might perceive something in your body and I perceive something else, and equally, we have this, insight. But you might not perceive what I'm perceiving, and I might not perceive what you are perceiving, and that's okay too. I hope that it's clearer. Shall I show some of the...
let's show some of the images and talk about, maybe, engage with how these postural patterns indicate kind of trauma, and relate it back to how trauma gets stored.
So I'm just going to show a few images here that might be more visually explanatory and so on. But the point is that trauma does affect who we are. Not just trauma, but any experience that we have in life it will affect us. So positively or negatively. So if the dominant pattern in our body is fear, that biochemical secretion, structural defense will, play and form in our system. So knowing that, and especially when we work with some of these patterns, traumatic patterns, and clients expect us to work with that, it's useful to know a little bit more about it. So I'm just going to show you some simple, you can see, okay? So when you look at the body either standing in vertical position or lying down, you simply observe the one side and the left and right side. You observe the position of the feet, the hips, shoulders, head. And in some of these postures, if someone is standing up, observe if one shoulder is higher. That's significant, for example, or lower. And that can be affected ipsilateral, which means on the same side, or counterlateral. So if one shoulder is higher, that certainly my left shoulder might be higher now. My right hip often will have to compensate for that. And we have this number of fibers and the fascia across the torso, anterior and posterior across the back to maintain that balance. So you've got the diaphragm there as well, that as a center holds so much. So clearly, all of these structures would be affected. So as you observe that, I want you to be aware, and I teach you to be aware of potential structures that are also involved. So higher shoulder, it's not just, I've got the tension in my shoulder, in my trapezius here, or can you massage me and can you relieve there? But the problem might not be here. The problem might be in your right foot, for example. That transmission force and positioning of the body and compensation of the legs, hips, torso and the neck and so on will form the imbalance there. The other thing is also that you observe the upper body and the lower body, and you see how that is developed and how it's positioned, either standing or lying down. In TRE, if you are tremoring, you might have dominance in the lower parts or upper parts. So our job is to kind of unify this, to make it more fluid. And you will do that by, for example, knowing, okay, so there is higher shoulder, and then you might engage the diaphragm, you might engage the hips, and then that might produce greater resolution. You also need to look at the body in 3 dimensions, so the spine and posterior part of the body is really, really important. So don't just look at the front of the body and what it's doing, look through through in 3 dimensions or 4 dimensions, as I often call it. Great giveaways would be position of the arms. So some shoulders might be bending forward, like going towards collapse position in a kyphosis, or being more relaxed, position of the neck. And, if you see someone laterally, you can see sometimes the chin might be protruding. That indicates each centimeter brings about, 5 kilos of weight into your cervical spine. So if you go 10 centimeters, it's 50 kilos on your neck there. And the whole rest of the body will be compensating and being affected by that. Neck thoracics, for example, your lumbar spine, a lot of people suffer from that. You've got the psoas in here as well that will affect if it's contracted due to stress, tension, or any other expression. It will pull onto your spinal cord. Coccyx, pelvic area, pelvic center, we hold so much in there. So by observing that, you can actually open deeper story. You can invite more of awareness and deeper curiosity and experiential inquiry. So
and just noticing different changes in a client, the kind of more invisible aspects of the practice. So it's not just, I feel better or I'm sleeping better. It's like, my psoas is looser, my foot. So it's just nice also sometimes if we have awareness of these other changes in the body.
Exactly. So that's more advanced provider here saying my psoas is looser. Yeah. Well, very few clients would know that, but they might say, okay, my bowel movements have regulated, for example, or my urinary function, it's different. I don't get up a few times a night. I sleep better. So my parasympathetic trunk, my system is small. So some of these, I have less pain in my neck. All of that will indicate greater transformation from the postural patterns, from the emotional patterns, structural patterns, and so on. So again, here we got some other images of scoliosis, for example. It's slightly exaggerated. I mean, slightly. Yeah, a lot of people have this, and some people are in pain, and other people are not in pain. Yeah. And that's also this, understanding how these compensatory mechanisms work. And also changing this higher shoulder, for example, can describe that there is a problem with the spine. Larger extremity, larger arm, larger shoulder, larger breast, larger part of the leg, or so on, will also indicate some compensation in the other side. So, and people are not aware of that. Mm-hmm. And they're more superficial and judgmental about it. But if you try to change that, I always suggest slowly. Because if you want to become a master in one weekend and change all your life in one weekend, you're undermining the years and decades of this extraordinary superorganism's capacity to hold structures together. Mm-hmm. So that's why this neuroplasticity, so brain needs time to change, your tissue, your fascia, your ligaments, even bones take time to mold and change. And for example, you renew your whole osteosystem, your bone system, every 7 years. So, some of these things might take longer time. Your whole liver renews every 6 months. So by slowly shifting patterns and understanding kyphosis, collapse structures, these are and often, for example, in these structures, you can see at the bottom, I always would engage understanding of your hips, of your diaphragm particular, because often internally something will be pulling you from inside. Yeah, so always pay attention what's happening inside people, not just superficial. So you've got anterior part, internal part, and posterior, and lateral parts. So in the course, we also look through the planes, different planes, like you got the frontal plane, you got sagittal plane, you got transverse plane. And this is useful to know some people say, oh, there are too many technical words, but you should know that. It's repeat a few times and, you will understand why, and practically why that's important. So let's maybe, beside me talking a lot here, so let's just maybe stand up and shall we try something? How you feel your body? Would that be interesting? Of interest? You don't have to, of course. Remember, I work only by invite. So no, let's do it together. So let's just feel your body as it is. Have your feet fairly parallel if you can. And just, people underestimate so much the first exercise we have in TRE, and I love that exercise. And a lot of people spend, they put their hands on their abdomen, on the chest, and spend minutes doing that. I mean, you can, but that's a different practice. Just drop your arms, feel the weight of your shoulders, of your arms, feel your hips, your feet, connection with the floor, difference between the left and right foot, your abdomen, your chest, your breath, without changing anything. Just feel it. It will give you a vast amount of information here. Position of your neck, of your chin, of your tongue. And as you do that, you're gently accepting yourself as you are. And then your system is kind of relaxing more naturally. Already system is relaxing. And you can notice, yeah, right now my shoulders are just dropping. It's been a busy day today. And so I'm like, okay. And so I want you to feel, for example, where your dominant part is. Are you being pulled forward or you're being pulled back? It's a simple thing you should occasionally check. And you can test this with your clients. So just allowing yourself to feel right now, which is my dominant position. So yeah, I'm a little bit forward, personally. And that indicates to me I'm still in a sympathetic state. I'm still going. I'm going. So my hips are a little bit forward, my chest a little bit forward, my chin is a little bit. But these are millimeters. But in the body reading, you can notice that. And if you can see that in yourself, you can start seeing this in other, and you can just bring awareness to them. It's beautifully educational. Or if you are leaning back, you're more in a parasympathetic state. And then there is also neutral place where, you're there. So feel the right and left, for example. Which foot is more connected with the floor and which foot is less connected with the floor. Useful to notice that. Which arm is heavier? Temperature of your hands. Are they equal in your hands? Is your breath going into your upper lobes of the lungs, into your abdomen? Is it going lateral into your ribs? Is it posterior to your back of your ribs? Are you breathing through your nose, through your mouth? All of these things indicate, they're telling me, where are you? If you're breathing through your mouth, you're more in a sympathetic state. If you're breathing through your nose, you're more in a parasympathetic state. Different brain nuclei are regulating mouth breathing to nasal breathing. And they both have the value. People like to say, oh no, you need to, just breathe in this way or the other way. Actually, in my experience, there is a way when there are reasons why you should breathe through your mouth, and sometimes you should breathe through your nose. And again, we will all have the different dominances. And so as I speak, I can just gently, without even trying, my whole ribcage changes. My whole body changes. My temperature is different now in my body. And Chandani is yawning. And please, when you yawn, don't put your hands over your mouth. That's really important. And encourage your clients never to do that in a therapeutic setting. I mean, if you're in a public, probably I don't want to see your tonsils necessarily, but really yawning, it's a primal, profound response actually in the womb. As a fetus we yawn, and you have also mammals yawn as well. It's such a profound, the levels of oxygen in your blood, in your brain changes as you yawn. So often that's encouraging. So that's another body reading signal there for you. So anyway, is that enough?
Yeah. Or ask.
Yeah, exactly. I want to leave some time for questioning and reflections as well. So anyway, that little exercise, it's very simple, but I hope that brought some awareness. Any questions, any comments?
Elsie, yeah.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I notice sometimes when you ask a client to notice something that their body is doing, they may go into a very analytical stream of words about it. So I think my challenge is always to keep the client just into the awareness instead of starting to analyze and evaluate and linking it to something else. You agree?
I do. However, it's also natural for us to analyze. Also, it's important not to make that wrong and soften that perception of analysis, because different people will have different gateways to awareness. Some people really like the bottom-up body approach and they have great results with it. Others like the more prefrontal cognitive, and there are different pathways in our brain, in our body, that are connected in a different way. So softening and bringing client to the body throughout that process, it's beneficial. And that is a skill, and sometimes it needs to be developed, and sometimes you do it better and sometimes not, and being more effective, and that's okay. But knowing there is a resource and knowing the dominance of a client will be very beneficial. You can see if someone is very cognitive and they want to, then probably you should not be going into discussion on that. Or someone is like not talking to you, they're really deep into the body and don't talk to me at all. Maybe they need to be pulled out of that space too. So gently opening and connecting parts.
It's interesting though, because there is, I feel like culturally, socially, there's this, when we're brought as our attention towards something, there's a tendency to provide a reason immediately, like why that is that way. And usually it's something quite superficial. It's like, oh, because last week I stumped my toe, or like it does, like not really so it's interesting the way that you ask the question. Yeah.
Just to add, as you do some of the exploration, what we just done, it's beneficial to look at the mirror and you look at your face and you will see some asymmetry in your face. So maybe one eye is larger or lower, the nose, the bridge of the nose might be going to one side, the jaw might be in a different position and so on. That's very beneficial to understand that, not to be judgmental, but to understand, because you will notice this in clients. And all of these facial features are connected with your different centers in the body as well, and the vagus nerve, the heart center, the diaphragm, and so on. And all of that can, give you more understanding on what a client might need or some of the deeper patterns. So just being aware of that, it's useful. Some of my own exploration is you look up and look at the nostril, size of your nostril, left or right, and you'll see that the nostrils are not even. And in my own exploration, I was exploring that with your right lung and the left lung as well, the space of the nostril. So I do go in the weird places, but I'm not asking you to do that. But you explore in your own way what comes up for you. So someone felt nauseous after standing for a while. Yeah, that can happen. It's good to be aware of that and maybe changing observing where do you feel nausea, and maybe connecting with the hand or with the breath, changing, maybe breathing through your nose or through your mouth, seeing what's that about. often the diaphragm, when relaxed, our brain might perceive that extra space as uncomfortable space, and there could be nausea pattern may emerge from that. And in TRE, we often have the nausea during the process. And Bessel van der Kolk talks about these 2 milligrams of opioids are being released each time we have recovery from traumatic event.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because during a traumatic event, there would be opioids shooting through your body to neutralize and to help you dissociate from because dissociation is not always bad. Yeah, clinical dissociation is not good, but then reconnecting with part of your body can also produce that memory, and then opioids might be released. But simply might be just your diaphragm opens up, then you have your esophageal sphincter around the stomach, which is connected to the vagus nerve. As a matter of fact, your left vagus nerve goes through that hiatus, that opening of the esophageal. And so that could also provoke.
She said it felt diaphragmatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So you see, the magic is working already without doing too much. You just stand. You got people entering now. Did we totally made the mistake with? You're welcome with the timing.
Amazing.
Great, Liz. Yeah, thanks for sharing that as well.
Can I ask a question, Cheda? Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi. So basically, I've noticed that I have some difficulties when a client, especially the first time or the first 2 times, he has a tendency to move a lot because he wants to explore, which is great. But sometimes I question myself how much freedom I have to give the client, especially the first time, for example. My answer is always, the total freedom. But I feel like he should be guided to listen to his body. So he has to be contained a little bit in his movement. So, but I don't feel comfortable because it's like I'm limiting his I'm limiting him. So can I give an insight about that? Of course, I'm not of great experience. I use my sensitivity, yeah. And sometimes I've noticed that I have this tendency. It's not clear enough.
Sure.
To me. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that question. Freedom is important, but within the containment as well, and self-regulation, just the basic TRE principles. And for people who have never expressed properly and they have a lot of limitations, being free to do things can be great revelation, but equally can be very seductive. And then people really want to just do so much, and they want to just move. And often by doing that, you can move away from feeling what's happening for you. Because, I want to be free and, I need space, so let me just do as much as I possibly can. And there are different parts of the brain that actually regulate that. And I only found this recently through this study so it's useful to, in some of these cases, it's useful to have a frequent pause. So you're not limiting a client, but you are containing them and asking them often, what do you feel in the body? So that often, and they might be annoyed with you for asking things, but still do ask and tell them that's your job to ask. And then, you let them be, but there are different stages through this. But then, in order to learn more, you need to come to body reading workshop. Then you'll get greater skill then. Any other questions? Gosh, it's already an hour.
Any last question?
It seems very short. How come? But anyway, time flies when you're having fun.
No.
Yeah, it's okay. A few minutes more. That's fine. I did say I'm not as rigid, and I'm tolerant. No more questions. Elizabeth, I want to ask questions. I can see she's already asking questions, but not voicing it.
True. Well, I don't know whether it is in the form of a question. Yes. I noticed, as far as my personal tremoring regards, is that when I keep tremoring for a long time, and I don't think about it, I think of something else, then my body talks. So probably what I do is I kind of control my body, and I'm asking myself now whether asking so many questions to a client can also hinder instead of helping the process sometimes, because it's when you don't expect it that your body talks. Or at least so it is for me, with a long tremoring. Quite long. What do you think about it? Thank you.
I agree. That depends on the client as well. So there are clients that need more containment, they need more awareness, and some others need slight dissociation, because that's what you're describing. You slightly dissociate from your body, even though our job is to kind of associate. But sometimes the key is to drop that control, really let go, and then some new magic might reemerge. So other parts of the brain and body are free to express what they need. So I would say, as Sue mentioned, there is not always here. There are different circumstances, and within the context, we need to adapt our approach as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a great question. So we all learned and explored that. So.
Amazing.
Yeah, so let's, if any last things, and we're going to wrap up. This is going to be on the YouTube as well, so it can be watched again. And some people wanted to participate and they couldn't, so it's really important. And I want this as a free resource for people, and we're going to meet every month and exploring. So please send email if you want something specific, and we're gonna. I committed the whole year every month, so we'll do that. And let's build our little community and little space together, and nonchalant, non-obligatory, and just relax. And please, if you feel, you can have a glass of wine and a beer and whatever, and a coffee. That's, it's free. I had a great teacher. I'd just like to close with this. It comes to my mind now. Because when I was young, I was very serious. I have a military background and sport background. So, if you want something done, you just really apply yourself. And in one great workshop, she was 86-year-old, amazing woman. And so we connected really well, and asked me out to go and have a drink, and and I was like, drink, I'm like a yogi, we don't do that. And she was like, I'm a yogi, I'm a bigger yogi than you are, And then she said something really important to me. She says, yoga is my life, but it's not my whole life. So I think it's, keep in mind the richness of human
Can
experience.
you say it again? Sorry, Cheda, can you say it again? Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yoga is my life, but it's not whole of my life. Yeah. So opening space for our background, the whole life experiences, and our shadows, and our great parts, and our not so great parts. All of that is in interplay here. So that's what I would like to just encourage you to be as you are. Come as you. Okay, so please do one about Vegas. Sure.
Amazing. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Cheda.
So, thank you, Anthony. Thank you all. It was great to see you and be with you. Take care and see you soon.
Yeah.